Narito ang programang totoong-totoo, Tambayan sa DWIZ. Programang magliliwanag ng ilang mahahalagang mga issue. Tambayan sa DWIZ. At ngayon, narito na sila upang maghatid ng saya sa bawat Pilipino. Sa programang Tambayan sa DWIZ.
Paglinawan. Ako lang po ngayon ang nandito sa Tambayan. Pero okay lang yan. Samahan nyo na lang ako. Sige. Kung hindi pa kayo nakakapag-follow at saka subscribe sa ating DWIZ, also Orthodox Live dito sa Facebook at saka sa YouTube, ay gawin nyo na ngayon yan. At saka, meron din tayong website na mababasa nyo dito sa ating marquee. Yata yan dyan dito sa ating page. At saka, don't forget to like and follow and also subscribe Luminous on Facebook and on YouTube. Okay, ano ang pwede nating gawin ngayong araw? Teka, mag-share muna pala tayo. Share muna. Share muna natin itong bagay na ito, no? Para maganda. Excited na ako dahil malapit na ang July 1. Malapit na nating makita kung anong mangyayari pag assume ng ating bagong Pangulo. Darating na July 1. Okay, at saka, well, hindi lang yun pala. Meron pa palang pag-assume ng ating bagong PCOO Secretary or Press Secretary na si Atty. Trixie. Okay. Kaya hindi na natin siya masyadong nakikita dito sa sa Tambayan kasi ewan ko ba, nakikita naman natin sa Karambola, ba't hindi nakikita sa Tambayan? Anyway, busy siya Atty. Trixie, pero hindi naman natin siya mamimiss because siguro mas madalas pa nga siyang makikita ngayon sa TV at saka sa internet streaming at saka mga reports sa radyo at saka television na nagsasalita bilang hindi lang bilang Luminous or Trixie Cruz Angeles, kundi ngayon ay alihim na ng Pilipinas nating mahal. Okay? Pero bago pa mangyari yung July 1 na yan, pag-assume ng ating mga bagong national and local officials, marami na kagad ang mga nangyayari following the news or the announcement of the appointments. No? Binanatan kagad yung ng media yung interview, ganyan na kesyo hindi daw ma-interview itong mga to. At saka pinopost pa sa social media yung kanilang mga messages, ganyan. Ang tanong dyan, bakit kayo why are you miffed? Diba? Bakit kayo naiinis? O bakit kayo may issue tungkol dyan? Hindi pa naman public official yan, mga yan. Kasi sabi lang natin, July 1 pa sila mag-assume. So, we don't really have the right. Nobody has the right to demand an interview with anyone. Kahit na never mind na-announce na yan na sila yung papalit bilang kalihim o bilang ganito ng ahensya, hindi ba sila nag-o-oath? No? Hindi pa sila nag-assume ng office. So until then, hindi pa yan sila public officials na may merong owing to the public trust. Tsaka may obligasyon nila sa public kasi hindi pa nga eh. Pangalawa, for example, sa kaso ni Atty. Trixie, I would understand na hindi mo niya siya magsasalita kasi there is a bigger news, di ba? The bigger news is the elections, for example, or the principal, for example, yung nananong presidente, vice president, mga opisyales. Yun ang mas malaking news. hindi yung appointment lang ng isang tao na hindi pa nga mag-a-assume, gagawin mo ng news agad. Yun nga, doon nakikita yung values ng pag-broadcast ng news dito sa Pilipinas. So mga tao, makikita mo, yung nagbabalita, gumagawa ng balita, ay depende sa kanila kung anong balita ang pipiliin nila. While to us or to others, there might be more important news stories. Sa kanila, meron silang ibang ideas. Okay? And meron silang apog na mamili o magtampo kung hindi pinagbigyan. Which is okay. Let's look at that. Yung ganyang phenomenon, Usong-uso ngayon sa Facebook yung yung pag-apply, pag-enforce ng social mores na tinatawag, mores, M-O-R-E-S. Mores, yun yung rules na sinusunod natin na that is not based on any legislation, that is not based on any specific written command by a sovereign or a superior, but just a custom nakasanayan na natin na sundin sa ating araw-araw na pamumuhay sa society. Mores, social mores. That is the root word for moral or morals, so morality, mores. Okay? There's an institutional enforcement of certain mores on social media. For example, it's Facebook. Facebook more than YouTube and anywhere else. Okay, itong Facebook ang pinakamalakas na mag-impose at mag-enforce ng social mores na sila lang ang namimili, and sometimes bordering on complete violation of constitutional rights of people, especially all I can say is that it happens here sa Pilipinas. Ang censorship, hindi pwedeng gawin yan. Hindi pwedeng gawin yan ng Estado against private citizens or other government agencies or bodies at lalo ng gobyerno. At hindi rin pwedeng gawin ng private, hindi rin yan pwedeng gawin ng private institutions. That is a dilemma. Bakit? Kasi sasabihin nila na bawal ang censorship. Nasa constitution natin, bawal ang censorship. You cannot prohibit any content of speech and of writing and of any other expression before it is seen by people. So, lahat ng sasabihin o isusulat ay dapat ma-publish muna, okay, bago ito maaaring i-suppress kung meron mang mali dyan o illegal yan o merong nilalabag na batas. Okay? Otherwise, it is a censorship. Okay? So, ang principle ng censorship is that you do not prohibit anything from the very source. Okay? That's called prior restraint. Okay? Prior restraint, hindi mo pa ginagawa, pinagbawalan ka na. Okay? Yan that is one form of censorship. Prior restraint. Okay? Bakit? Makikita natin dito, why can Facebook do that to us? Okay? To many of us. But government can't. My argument is that Facebook cannot do it. Neither can government. Bakit? Okay, if this freedom of speech and of expression and of the press is being imposed, okay, is being prohibited or suppressed by Facebook because they are private. Okay, dahil private sila, pwede sila mag-censor. Okay? But government cannot do that to us or to them because public yung gobyerno, and bawal gawin. May arguments that hindi. Bawal yan sa dalawa, sa private at saka sa public. Okay? Bakit? Itong freedom of speech, expression, and the press, etc., ay mores to. It just happens na na-encode to, na-codify ito sa ating constitution. But these freedoms did not originate as laws. They originated as constitutional provisions. They originated as social mores din. Okay? Na na-develop ito dahil na-realize ng mga societies noon na dapat di natin pwedeng i-censor. And later on, they asked the government to codify it, okay, to include it in laws and in constitutions, so that hindi na kailangan sabihin. But nagkaroon lang ng limitation of bigla doon sa batas na ang gobyerno lang, the state, pag binasa mo doon, it would seem like ang gobyerno lang o ang state ang hindi pwedeng mag-censor and everybody else can. But how can you develop that kind of custom, okay, customary practice of respecting other people's rights to express to the press or to speech? Kung meron kang ina-allow na mag-censor dyan in private private sector. So mag-defeat lang ang purpose na i-develop natin itong costumbre na ito, na more na ito na dapat malaya tayo sa ating pamamalita, sa paglalad ng opinion at saka pag-express ng ating mga salubin. Okay, so think about it as there is a norm that we want to put in action, in place, na sundin dapat ng mga tao, pero ang norm na yan ay pwedeng hindi sundin ng isang malaking parte ng society, which is the private sector. Only the public institutions cannot censor. So only the public institutions should respect the rights to speech and the freedom of speech, press, expression. But the rest of that, which is the private sector, which means everybody, every one of us, can censor each other. What will happen? Kaya nga natin nilagayan dyan para to foster a greater multiplicity, a plurality of ideas and opinions by letting everyone speak and letting everyone express, letting everyone publish things. Okay? Tapos, you think that the provision in the Constitution na nagsasabing bawal nga i-censor yan, ay mag-apply lang sa gobyerno. What kind of hypocrisy is that? What kind of stupidity is that in construing the provision that way? Diba? If there is something that you want to develop, to discover and explore, it should be open to everyone. And everyone should be prohibited from suppressing that kind of development of the norm. Okay? Medyo mahirap intindihin because this is a meta-discussion of ethics and epistemology, which are philosophical bodies of knowledge na pinag-uusapan to. Kasi ito ay based on principles na nobody had the power to impose on anyone. Okay, this happened by the convention or the agreement of many people in many societies in different points in history. So most of these things, halimbawa itong freedoms of speech na nasa atin, it started in Europe. Karamihan sa mga ito. Ang ating Bill of Rights, which includes which includes this freedom of speech and press and expression, most of them galing yan sa England, di ba? The Magna Carta. Yung Magna Carta na tinatawag, ito yung parang listahan ng mga demands ng House of Lords and House of Commons sa monarchy. Now, ito ang mga respetuhin nyo ng mga rights namin. You cannot impose that on anyone at any time at all, because we consider these rights as inalienable and supreme and more compelling, compulsive than the state or the power of the state. So, ibig sabihin, ang kalayaan na maghayag ng itong opinyon o ng saloobin ay mas malakas pa yan kasi sa power ng Estado na magbawal na kung ano-ano sa kanyang territory. So kung ang Estado ay may power over your life and your death with due process, ganun din ang ginawa dito na magbawalan ka lang after a kind of due process, which is exactly what happens in regular application of our laws na makukulong ka lang for whatever you publish or you express or you say. Kapag na-publish na yan o narinig na yan o nasabi mo na yan, okay, hindi na-censor yan, at nakita ng mga nakarinig nito, na bumabag yan sa batas. Halimbawa sa batas ng libel o ng slander o ng false publication. Ibig sabihin, it has to be heard first, it has to be read first, okay? It has to be witnessed, seen first. Bago ka ngayon mapapunish kung mali nga yan, kung lumabag nga yan sa batas. That is the difference between, say, murder or killing a human being, homicide, for example. Kasi yan talaga, bawal. You are not allowed to do it and then adjudge later on na kung nag-violate ka ba ng batas. Ang patay ng tao, in general, presumption is illegal yan unless ma-justify mo. Okay? Napapansin niyo ang pinagkaiba ng freedom of speech at the punishment of a person under criminal law sa Pilipinas based on the violation of in their exercise of rights of the freedoms of expression, press, and speech. At yun namang punishment na tatanggap na isang tao, ipapatos sa isang tao pagka nag-violate ng law on killing someone. Okay? Sa homicide o sa murder, ang pagpatay, yan talaga bawal yan. Bawal yan, you can't do it. Okay? Kung yan ang ginawa mo dito naman sa speech, expression, at saka press, bawal yan. Before you do it, you can't do it. Censorship yan. Okay? You cannot do that. The state cannot do that na pagbawalan mo yung mga tao na gawin yan muna. Okay? Whereas dito sa kabila, yung murder, homicide, bawal mo yung gawin in the first place and no period. Yan lang yun. Pagka ginawa mo yan, itong murder, homicide, pag ginawa mo, kakasuhan ka at malamang sa malamang kung ma-prove na ikaw nga ang gumawa niyan at wala kang justification, makukulong ka. Okay? Dito naman sa side ng censorship, magagawa mo yan without a prohibition. And then, kung may nagreklamo laban sa'yo, ipoprove ng Estado na yung utterance mo, yung sinabi mo, o yung publication mo, yung pinapublish mo, o yung work of art na in-express mo, ay may na-violate na batas. At iilan lang naman ba yung batas na yan? Okay? And in my opinion, the state has written all the laws, okay, that would tend to suppress or that would tend to prohibit or to limit or regulate the freedom of speech, press, and expression. And it cannot write any more laws on that to regulate it. Para sa akin, nagawa na at nasulat na lahat ng batas na pwedeng gawin ng isang bansa, ng isang estado para i-limit, okay, yung speech, expression at press. And those laws are already present with us dito sa Pilipinas at wala nang pwedeng idagdag. That is my opinion. Wala nang pwedeng idagdag. Nagawa na lahat ng batas na maglilimit sa ating freedoms na yan, yung tatlo. And that's my opinion because wala nang ibang pwedeng mangyari pa na pwedeng magkaroon pa na punish natin ito dahil bagong krimen ito. Wala na. Because nothing can override the ultimate freedoms of these things, yung mga tatlo, and including the right to life, liberty and property, including this. Wala nang mas tataas pa dyan. Okay? And lahat ng mga prohibitions or limitations of those freedoms have already been made. At wala nang pwedeng gawin pa na idadagdag dyan. Okay? So, ilan lang yung pabantayan mo. There's libel, there's slander, there's false publications, there's lying, for example. Perjury and false testimony. Yan. Ito yung mga makikita mo naman sa uri ng krimen na ginawa mo muna, okay? And then, kinasuhan ka, punish ka dahil may mali doon sa ginawa mo. May mali doon sa sinabi mo. Okay? Or sa intention ng pagsabi mo, o sa pag-publish mo, o sa pag-express mo. Ang ibang krimen like murder, theft, or robbery, bawal mo talagang gawin yan. There is no justification, there is no excuse that applies to everyone. And then, pag nasa kaso ka na, ipoprove mo ngayon na I was justified kasi papatayin din ako eh. So, inunahan ko lang o ganyan. Mamatay ako eh, sasaksakin na niya ako. So, pinaril ko, ganyan. Di mo pag kinasuhan ka ng libel, simple lang yung depensa mo dyan. Totoo yun eh. Kaya wala naman akong mali siya nung sinabi ko yan. See? Doon sa kabila, sa murder at homicide, kahit totoo pa yan totoo naman na pinatay ko siya, hindi inamin mo, makukulong ka. Diba? So, magkaiba yung uri niya ng krimen. Kasi yung isa, murder, bawal talaga yan siya gawin muna. Kaya it is first, bawal gawin. Itong utterances, publications, and press, and speeches, and expressions, like paintings and poetry, ganyan, pwede mong gawin yan. Saka ka na makakasuhan. Ito, bawal mong gawin pag ginawa mo, kakasuhan ka kagad just for doing it. Dito naman, sa freedom of speech, expression, and press, gawin mo muna, and then we will see kung merong mali dyan. Nakikita nyo yung difference. Okay? So, bakit yan magkaiba? Kasi, walang overarching na prinsipyo sa society na pwede tayo magpatayan. Walang ganyan. Pero merong overarching principle or a norm or a mores sa societies anywhere in the world na bawal nating tahimikin yung mga tao. If there is something that they want to say, they should be allowed to say it. Okay? If there is something that they want to express, they should be allowed to express it. And saka na natin yan sila tutuusin kung meron na insulto dyan, na masaktan dyan, na may damage, okay? Na merong requirement yan ng batas na para makapagreklamo ka successfully at manalo sa kaso ng libel, ganyan, dapat merong injury at saka damage, okay? Mahirap mag-convict ng libel, slander, and all that. Pero, kasi, touchy yan siya, may karapatan yan in the first place na magsalita yung tao na yan. Okay, whatever it may be, he has the right to say it. Dito sa murder, nobody has the right to kill anyone. Whatever the reason be, no one has the right to do that. Okay? Later on, kung ma-justify mo dahil may napatay ka nga, pero you were protecting your life, pwede yun. Pero that is not, that will not go to the rule na sige, pwede na tayong pumatay lahat. At saka na lang natin tutuusin kung bawal ba yung pagpatay na yun yung ginawa niya. Imagine mo kung gano'n ang sistema ng batas natin ng taking of life. Na, sige, gawin mo muna. Everybody, we are all allowed to kill people. And then after that, when we have killed people, we will determine each of this killing kung tama ba yan, o justified ba yan, o krimen yan. Eh, nagkagulo na, ang daming mamamatay muna. Di ba? Dito sa dito sa freedoms ng tatlo na to, wala namang mamamatay dyan. Pag sinabihan mong mataba o sinabihan mo magnanakaw, hindi naman pala to. Walang mamamatay dyan. There is no immediate danger of death or loss of property and stuff like that. Dahil sa sinabi mo, o dahil sa pinablish mo, o dahil sa nililok mo, pinint mo. Okay? So, yun ang magkaiba doon. There is no immediate danger sa utterances natin, sa ating expression o press. Bakit? Dahil importante, kasi mas importante, mas matimbang para sa societies na develop ng prinsipyo na ito na mag-usap tayo, na magkarinigan tayo, na magkaintindihan tayo. Never mind na may murahan dyan, never mind na may suntuhan dyan, mas maigi pa rin yung naririnig natin in communication process ang isang tao kaysa patayin na lang tayo niyan bigla. See? So, pagka pinagbawal mo yung inalaw mo yung censorship, nagbawal mo yung mga freedom of speech, expression, and press, meron immediate danger of actually death. Kasi mga tao, pagka bawal lang sabihin, imbis na makapag-usap sila at makapag-communicate sila ng sa loobin para maaring ma-resolve yung problema niya, magpapatayan na lang sila. See? So, makikita mo na may rason kung bakit hindi natin pwedeng i-censor ang communication stuff, itong pamamalita, ang expression, at speech. Kasi nga, it can do more evil kung pinagbawal natin itong mga rights na to kaysa sa kabutihan. Okay? It will do more evil if we allow censorship, but which is unlike the taking of life, yung homicide, murder. If you allow killing people and then sue and then determine later on kung tama ba yung pagpatay o hindi, that's a very dangerous situation. That is really definitely more dangerous than prohibiting murder and homicide. Kasi mamamatay muna yan bago malaman natin kung tama ba yung pagpatay nito. Samantalang dito sa speech and expression, may insulto muna yan bago natin malalaman kung tama yan o mali yung sinasabi. I mean, gaano ba kaseryoso yung ma-hurt yung ego mo, di ba? Kasi mamatay ka. Di ba? So, it all brings down to what is this kind of value na ini-implement sa atin ngayon ng Facebook? Okay? Is it just merely a mores or a norm or a custom? Or is it a command of a monarch or of a sovereign of a law? At bakit natin ino-observe to? And more importantly, why is there a dichotomy between who cannot censor and who can censor? Na para sa akin, if we want to develop this kind of mores of custom sa ating society, dapat walang excuse. Dapat everyone, including the private sector, cannot censor. It cannot censor. It is a bad example for a society that tries to develop this kind of a principle or mores that to see that there are people who are actually exempt from this rule. Okay, but before we will take a break first. Babalik tayo after this commercials, kung yan ang tawag dyan.
Muli nating balikan Tambayan sa DWIZ.
Kasama si Attorney Ahmed Paglinawan. Pinag-uusapan natin ngayon ang the norm of respecting the rights to the freedom of speech, expression, and the press. And this family of liberties na tinatawag that are found in the Bill of Rights of the Constitution. Now, we said earlier na itong mga liberties na to are, although they might be found in the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and protections in many forms of these liberties are found scattered in the laws of this country, ay hindi ho ito batas lang. This is not a mere statute. Okay? Ito ay isang norm, isang custom, isang kostumbre, isang importante na bang tawag dyan? Alituntunin ba tawag dyan? Na sinusunod, not only by Filipinos, but everyone in this country and in this world. Bakit? Because this is not only a law. It developed originally from a societal rule na dinevelop as part of the process of the development of democracy in the modern society. So this is now sociology and then history and a little bit of political science. Na ang pag-develop nito, ang mga itong mga kalayaan natin na nasa Constitution ay hindi inimbento ng mga Pilipino yan. Nung laban ng ating mga katipunero noong 1800s, laban sa mga Espanyol, yung pinaglalaban nila doon ng kalayaan, kasarinlan, okay, kasarinlan is independence. Kalayaan is freedom from tutelage o pangingialam ng foreign countries, ng powers. Hindi yan sa kanila nag-originate. Nabasa lang din po nila yan sa mga sulat, sa panulat ng mga European at that time, European philosophers, writers na involved sa French Revolution, for example. And then later on, the American Revolution. Hindi tayo ang original dyan. May nauna na sa ating nag-develop ng more, ng norm, ng custom na yan. So, anywhere you go, it is there. So why is it that dito sa Pilipinas, and maybe siguro in America, but maybe not so much in America, Facebook would be very careful in censoring people in the US, even if they are US-based. Pero ginagawa nila sa atin sa Pilipinas. Bakit? Why is Facebook more fearful of doing that in the US and not here in this country? Ewan ko, bakit sila ganyan? Okay, makikita ko, may mga friends ako dati na nakikita ko pa sila dito na nasa US, mga African Americans, mga White Americans, ganyan, halo-halo. At nagmumurahan sila doon. As in, may yung mura talaga. They can include that in their posts. It's allowed. Dito sa atin, hindi ka pa nga nagmumura, Tagalog pa, hindi mo alam kung naiintindihan ba ito ng mga na may-ari nitong Facebook. Meron sinasabing this comment is hidden because it might be offensive. Tingnan mo, ikaw ang nagsasabi na offensive, hindi pa namin nakikita ito, tinanggal mo na, denied mo na ganyan. Bakit? That is a censorship. And why are you allowed to do that? Before nakita ng mga tao yung comment o yung post, sinabi mo na bawal yan sabihin. How is that conducive to the development of the respect for life, for the freedoms of speech, expression, and the press? Kung kayo mismo, private sector, na most of the press and the media ay talamak sa ganyang gawain. Ang Facebook, ano ba ang prinsipyo na pinagpapatungan itong social media? Di ba, freedom of expression, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, na mayroon tayong kasing kalayaan, kaya ilagay natin sa Facebook yan so we can express it. Di ba? So we can publish it. Tapos, lalagyan niyo yung rule dyan na pwede kayong mag-censor. Craziness yan. That's hypocrisy. That is counterproductive. That is completely paradoxical to what what we intend to do when we invented social media. I mean, when I say invented, we invented it. Us, the people in this world who are alive today, we are the ones who are allowing this. We are making it a custom by doing it ourselves. Okay, so that is how a norm, an international norm, happens or exists or develops. Okay, that is the genesis of a international custom na nagiging batas later on because they are codified in a law, in a legislation, in a statute that is issued by the Congress and executed by the executive of a country. But before that, nandiyan na yan. Okay? Sinusunod na yan ng mga tao nung kahit wala pang penal punishments for that. Sinusunod na yan, irespeto natin yung pagrespeto na tinatawag ay just enough that we can hear it, that we can read it, okay, that we can see it. That is just the respect that is needed here for these liberties. Yung respect to life is something else. Okay? Respect to life means the respect should extend over to not killing this guy. Okay? We respect this life by not ending it. Okay? Itong sa respect natin sa liberties na pinutukoy natin tatlo is just a very small kind of respect. We just respect it just enough that we can perceive it, that we can read it, that we can hear it, that we can see it. Diba? Yun lang, napakaliit na respeto para sa mga liberties na to. And yet, ito yung pinaka-least na pwedeng ilimit ng batas ng mga estado by way of laws. Dahil ito ay talagang almost, well, it's not almost, it is inherent almost in humanity na hindi mo pwedeng pagbawalan yung isang tao, batas man o wala, na maghayag ng kanyang saloobin. Kasi even before we had this kind of a value, na-realize na natin na ang communication ay importante dahil for many reasons. Okay? One, that it will actually help us in what we are trying to do, in what we are trying to figure out, do in our daily lives. But it will also, when problems occur, will aid in the resolution of these problems. Because the more you speak to people that have problems with you and you with them, the more you understand what they want and the more likely you are to resolve your problems. Diba? Eh kung pinagbawalan mo na magsabi, nagalit sa'yo, patayin ka na lang yan agad. Now, you not only violated the right, the liberties to freedom of speech, expression in the press, you also led to another crime, which is, pinatay na lang niya dahil hindi niya masabi yung gusto niya. Ang gusto lang sana niya sabihin eh, intindihin mo ako na tumawid ako dito, dahil nagmamadali ako, mamamatay na yung anak ko doon sa kabila dahil ako mang tatawidin, mas tagasaan. See? Kung pinakinggan lang na saan natin siya, maraming krimen ang naiwasan at maraming sakuna ang naiwasan at kamatayan ng, in this example, yung bata, ang naiwasan at nirespect mo pa yung liberties of speech, expression, and the press. So, ang nangyayari ngayon dito sa Pilipinas is completely anathema to the development of the norm of these liberties. Itong tatlong to. Not only that, it is anathema to the holistic enforcement of the constitutional provisions on the protection of these three liberties. Kasi how can you develop into mature democratic human beings and societies when you're allowed to do something so barbaric na noon pa ay pinagbawal na nga yung gawin, which is censorship. It's barbaric. Bakit? Kasi nagiging diktador, balik tayo sa autocracy, balik tayo sa lunacy of a one-man rule na kung ano yung gusto niya ay yun ang masusunod. Okay, wala nang will from any other person but to that leader lang mag-isa. So, itong pag-aalaw ng censorship in the private sector, especially dito sa social media, is barbarism. It's going back to even beyond the Middle Ages, the medieval period. Doon yan sa ancient times kung saan pumapayag lang ang mga tao na i-lord it over sila nitong mga diktador, itong mga despots, itong mga autocrats, itong mga emperor na sila lang yung God of the entire universe. Okay, hindi na yan totoo. Wala nang ganyan ngayon. In fact, wala nang pure monarchy ngayon sa mundo. Okay? Hindi na pure ang monarchy ngayon na hindi na lang sa kanyang will ang masusunod. Why? Because that is, I don't want to say it's primitive, but it's backward. Hindi na natin sinusunodin ngayon because of the development of democracy and our concepts of freedoms, even outside of democracy. It will consider these kinds of values na pwedeng mag-censor, na isa lang yung pwedeng sundin, na sila lang and sino na lang gustong mag-censor. That is barbarism. That is primitivism. That is that is endemic in the dark ages. Diba? Ang mga tanga, yung mga gustong gumawa ng ganyan. Okay? The only reason why you would want to censor anything or anyone is that you are afraid that you will be removed from your perceived imaginary stature and power. Kasi yan yung rason kung bakit pinagbabawal magsalita noong mga panahon ng monarchs and emperors and all that in the Middle Ages and in the Classical Ages. Na takot kasi sila na nag-usap-usap itong mga to, magplano itong mag-conspire at patayin itong king at palitan. Otherwise, there is no other reason why you would want to prohibit people from talking, from expressing their opinion. Diba? There is this, which is what happened here in the Philippines. When martial law by the older President Marcos happened, nagkaroon ng anti-subversion law. Yung anti-subversion law is an example of censorship. And true enough, it was rendered unconstitutional. It was considered and adjudged unconstitutional. Bakit? Kasi pinagbawal yung pagkakaroon lang ng mga subversive documents. Ang pagkakaroon lang, hawak mo lang siya. Komunista ka na and therefore you are a rebel, which is not true. Hindi nga yan pinagbabawal ang mag-print at magsahayag ng saloobin, kaya hindi illegal na meron ka subversive documents dyan. Diba? It is not a crime itself. At kaya nga, iyon ang batas na yun, and the President, former President Marcos didn't do anything about it. Hindi yan i-implement dahil unconstitutional pala yan. Diba? Ganun nga, even laws will be overturned and declared unconstitutional or illegal kapag ang sinusuppress nito ay primal rights ng mga citizens. And the rights to the freedom of expression, speech, and press, this is primal. These are primal rights na rooted in the human individual itself. Hindi yan siya rooted in any other institution that granted that right to individuals. These rights, these freedoms are inherent in every human being. It was not given to them by a Congress or a president or a king. It was theirs in the first place. Even before they realized that there is such a liberty or freedom or right. So it is like now a human right, which they are. Human rights yan at walang dapat pwede na mag-censor o mag-prohibit niyan. Not the government, not the state, not the monarch, okay, not the despot, not private persons, not private companies, not here in the Philippines, not even by a foreign private company here in this country. And we should therefore be vigilant about and against this. That we should fight censorship not only by government but also by private sector. Bakit? Because if you balance the evil that you want to prevent in censoring with the good that you want to protect in censorship, makikita mo na mas matimbang yung gusto mong protektahan kaysa sa mas matimbang yung value ng isang bagay na gusto mong i-protect kapag ipagbawal mong censorship. Ano yun? For example, pag kami nagmurahan, nagsiraan sa social media, anong masamang mangyayari dyan? Okay? Anong masamang mangyayari to anyone and everyone concerned? The ego, masakit. Nasaktan yung ego, nasira yung reputasyon niya. Ruway ka pa. Okay? Nagmurahan yan, pero nakapag-advertise pa rin ng Facebook sa wall mo. Even if nagmurahan kayo dyan. Di ba? Ego lang. Ang nagda-damage dyan. Samantalang, kung pinagbawal mo yan, inalaw mo yung censorship. Diba? Hindi mo inalaw yung censorship, meaning, just don't censor at all. Murahan ng mga tao, nagkaintindihan na okay lang naman pala magmurahan. Pag nasanay ka na, wala na epekto sa atin. What's important then is that what you do from here on end after nagmurahan kayo. Kung meron kayong na-resolve na problema, after nagmurahan kayo, mabuti. Diba? Wala namatay. Kumita din ang Facebook sa inyo. So everybody happy. If we respected the primary liberties, kumita ang Facebook, may na-resolve tayong problema, hindi tayo nagpatayan na. Pagkatapos nating mag-log out sa Facebook, hindi tayo nag-draw doon sa kalsada. Diba? Hindi tayo nag-bari lang ganyan, sakan doon. So makikita mo, na pagka inalaw mo yung censorship, may mas masamang mangyayari sa atin. Unang-una na lang dyan, pagbalik natin in a primitivism and barbarism. Okay? Well, in fact, the barbarians were better than we are. Bakit? The barbarians actually had no leader. They were just a conglomeration of independent people wanting to having the same kind of desire to kill people and steal their property and loot their food and stuff and rape their women. But wala yan silang malinaw na leader na magsasabing, bawal mong gawin yan. Wala. In fact, mas advanced pa sa atin ang mga barbarians kaysa dito sa ating sitwasyon ngayon na pilit na ini-impose sa atin ang Rappler and verifiers ng Facebook. So, this is concerning all of us. This is concerning all of us, Filipinos, not Filipinos, in this country and outside, and in this whole globe. That by imposing these things, somebody is arrogating to himself the power of the monarch, the power of the Khan, the power of the emperor that belong to the Middle Ages, to the Dark Ages. Okay? Somebody now wants to be a dictator similar to the Khan, Genghis Khan, Kublai Khan, Alexander the Great, itong mga conquerors na sila lang sumaghari sa buong empire. Yan ang nangyayari dito ngayon. Pagka nagsimula ka mag-censor, gusto mo na ngayong maging emperador. Gusto mo yan na yung maging despot, diktador. And kung hindi natin pinapayagan ang diktadorya dito sa Pilipinas, bakit natin inaalaw itong isang malinaw na precursor ng diktadorya, ng despotismo, ng pangsisikil ng itong mga media, itong mga reporters. Pagka pinagbawalan mong hindi ka nakinig o dismiss ko sila, they will say, this is our violation of our right to the press. And yet, when the same media corporation or a company is the one fact-checking kunyar, which is really just nothing but censorship in collaboration with Facebook, it's not. Walang pwedeng magreklamo. This is na pagsisipil lang aming rights and liberties to these freedoms. But the only difference there is that sila nagrereklamo, tayo hindi. So dapat magreklamo tayo at sa mas marami tayong magreklamo, mas madali itong masupil, matatalo itong diktadoryang ugali na ganito. Okay? Huwag kayong maniwala na ang Estado lang ang pinagbabawal mag-censor. Lahat ng tao, bawal mag-censor. Maybe not under the laws at present in this country, but in international norms and customs. Bawal ka patahimik ng isang tao in exchange for anything else or instead of anything else. Okay? Hindi mo yan siya pwedeng patahimik for whatever reason. For whatever reason. Kung naiingayan ka, umalis ka. Pero huwag mong pagbawalan magsalita. Okay? Kung nagadamis ka, di kasuhan mo para mapagbayad at makulong yan. Pero huwag mo yan pagbawalan magsalita. Okay? Di ba rin magbayad, makulong? Huwag mong pagbawalan magsalita. Bakit? Dahil yan yung krimen. Yan yung krimen. Yan yung pinaka-barbaric na krimen. That is the most heinous crime that you can ever do in this modern age. It is the most heinous intellectual crime that anyone can do. It does not involve a dead body. It does not involve a missing property, but it is just taking the entire society backward about 200 to 300 years. It brings us back to the Middle Ages, to the Dark Ages, to the idiocy of these Europeans who later on invented these freedoms anyway. So, makikita natin na tayo, gusto natin bumalik to the time when even Europe were like that, we're in darkness. So, tandaan natin. Okay? Teka muna, nakalimutan, hindi ko nakakita yung, ulit na yung kung ano yung next show natin dito. Before I go, okay, hindi ko nakita. Where is it? Anyway, my last message to everyone is this. That we should be vigilant, that we should be beware of any action, any rule that leads to censorship or to the prohibition of certain people and certain groups to say something or to express something, because that is barbarism. Okay? To allow that is to allow not only dictatorship in this country, and dami natin sinasabi tungkol sa mga Marcoses, sa mga diktador, but we are excusing this dictatorship by foreign companies in this country. Okay? This is something that we should have a revolution on. And if that revolution has to happen to anyone, even if it is not a government, then it has to be happening. It has to happen. We have to do it. Okay? And we have to revolt. We have to fight this. Okay? We have to fight this. No one in this world is ever allowed to stop you from speaking, from publishing anything, or from expressing anything. All right? Okay. So, that's it. That's my message to you today. Ang susunod na programa ay ang Pilipinas Ngayon Na, kasama si Yusek Robert Rivera at Lady Eliza. Okay? Huwag niyo pong kalimutan na mag-like and share at mag-subscribe dito sa ating mga pages. Okay, maraming salamat po at ito po si Attorney Ahmed Paglinahan sa ngalan po natin Fix Cruz Angeles, who is now a public official in a little while. At magkita-kita pa tayo sa susunod ng Tambayan. Salamat.
Tambayan sa DWIZ.